Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Hub Connection China and Brazil. My name is Paulo Padula, Country Manager for Plug and Play Brazil, and it's a pleasure to host you for our today's session. Today, you're gonna see a little bit of everything. So I'm gonna cover a little bit of the purpose of this meeting. Then I'm gonna hand over to José Roberto, who's the Head of Technology, Science, and Innovation at the Brazilian Embassy in Beijing, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the Chinese ecosystem and the opportunity of collaboration that we have between our countries. Then we hand over to our team in China. We're going to have Peter, we're going to have Edward, we're going to have Jeff, we're going to have the whole ventures team to talk about overall trends, and then a deep dive on agtech and food trends, and last but not the least, on sustainability trends. So please feel free to put your questions. The ones that are attending online, feel free to use the chat. The ones that are attending the session in person, feel free to reach one of our team members, and we'll make sure all the questions are answered. If it's not possible to answer the questions today, no worries. We're going to keep an open channel offline. So we'll make sure that all the doubts and all the questions will be delivered to the keynote speakers and answered in the right time. So once again, welcome to our session. Thank you very much for your time, and let's start for a great session. Plug and Play is a platform of change makers. We are the global largest innovation platform. And our goal is to make sure that everybody involved in the ecosystem gets a value that won't be possible to be generated by themselves. So what we try to do is to connect all the agents in the ecosystems and make sure they create mutual value for each other, but also sustainable value for the long term. We also believe that open innovation must really be open. That means not having any borders in terms of geographical borders, but also not having any borders in terms of areas of knowledge. So Plug and Play operates in 42 offices around the world. The idea is that a corporation based in Brazil can benefit from the best technology no matter where it is. That also means that a startup based in Brazil can have access to, can be hired by the corporations no matter where they are. So we really believe that connecting these companies from all the corners of the world is something that empowers corporations and startups to reach even bigger results. We operate in a network of over 48,000 startups. Every year, we talk with around 10,000 startups from different sources, from our active scouting process, from inbound application, from deal flows that we change with our tier one partners with venture capitals. And by doing that, we are able to identify what is hot, what is becoming trendy in terms of attracting investments, and which technologies are being most successful. And this is part of what I'm going to share with you today. And last but not the least, we operate in 19 verticals. The reason for that is that no matter what is your core business as a corporation, you probably have a complex business. So you can face challenges in supply chain, you can face challenges in fintech, in technology, in smart cities, agtech, sustainability, health tech. So we don't know where the business challenge will come from. So at Plug and Play, we're prepared to explore every knowledge, every area of human knowledge and bring the best technology available in that area, no matter what it is. So why China? Why did we decide to start our first hub connection with China? First of all, China has a very long tradition of innovation. If you remember Marco Polo's travels, the West was surprised by the innovation that China had at that time. So it's not from today, it's from centuries back ago that China is surprising us with their innovation capabilities. It's also important to note that currently China is a powerhouse of global economic growth. So it's important to understand how the big corporations that are now operating in the world, like Alibaba, TikTok, and many others, how did they get bigger? I mean, they started from somewhere. So it's important to understand the Chinese ecosystem, the Chinese economic environment, the incentives that they provide to the startups, how is the mindset of the Chinese founders, because they are a very important locomotive to the world progress today. Getting back to the startups we're going to see today is an incredibly dynamic ecosystem. So from the central planning that they have to access of capital, to benchmarking, to mentorships, is an incredibly dynamic ecosystem. But even though it's not an ecosystem that is very known by the Brazilian audience. So we heard about Silicon Valley, we heard about Israel, but China remains kind of a mysterious ecosystem first nowadays. So the goal is to explore our team in China, to explore their knowledge, understand a little bit of how Plug and Play operates in China, but mainly which are the key trends. Feel free to watch the presentation, feel free to ask questions. They're gonna be with us online. So let's take the most of this session. I'm sure it'll be great for everybody. Once again, welcome. And now I'm gonna hand over to Peter, who's gonna share some words with us. Thank you very much. And Peter, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Peter Xu. I'm the managing partner and the CEO of Plug and Play China. First of all, I think I will congrats for today's celebrate for Plug and Play Brazil and the cooperation with Innovation Hub in Brazil. I know there's lots of great opportunity and also a lot of great startup in Brazil. And I know today we are talking about agri-food and sustainability. Plug and Play globally has a lot of establishments for the Innovation Hub globally. I think we have established around 40 cities and countries for Innovation Hub, including China. Plug and Play China has been in China for 5 years. We have been landing in the big city like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen. Hopefully you can visit in China in the future. And we have been quite active in different verticals, including agri-food, sustainability, mobility, smart city, fintech, insurtech, etc. I still remember last year and also this year, we had a great event including startup pitch and demo day. Also, we invite a couple of the Brazil corporates to have collaborating showcase and the startup economy forum in China. And we believe between Brazil and China, there's lots of things we can cooperate together. First of all, for those multinational companies, we can always set up or establish in 2 countries, the innovation hub between Brazil and China. And there are lots of innovation ideas, cutting edge technology can flow between 2 countries. Secondly, I think the startup between Brazil, I know Brazil is very active for the entrepreneurship. And so China also is very active. So between 2 countries, the startup entrepreneurs can always finding this platform as a great active platform to exchange information and also to establish successfully in both countries. Last not least, I think there's always a lot of opportunity for the city, for the government, or for university, for those ecosystem partners can cooperate in between these platforms. And not only for the sustainability, but agri-food, but also other verticals. Again, we have been working with agri-food and sustainability in the last 2 years in China and globally. And we are quite focusing on those carbon neutrality, but also including the biotechnology, green supply chain, green agri-food, IoT-based, smart manufacturer basis on that one. I think there will be lots of opportunity. We can exchange information and building up the cooperation between 2 countries. Thanks a lot, and congrats for today, celebrate, and congrats for Plug and Play Brazil moving to a new great innovation hub. And we're looking forward a great successful cooperating between each other in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much for your words. Now let me introduce José Roberto de Andrade Filho. As I said before, he's the head of Science, Technology, and Innovation for the Brazilian Embassy in Beijing. He's going to share with us part of the work done by the embassy and also his view about the opportunities of collaboration that we have between Brazil and China. So, José, please be welcome and feel free to on the stage. Welcome and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Paulo. It's a pleasure to join and participate in this event. Thank you very much, Peter. It's a pleasure to speak to you tonight here from Beijing at the embassy. We have Rebecca Xie from Plug and Play China with me. And I'm going to give you some basic highlights from innovation between Brazil and China, and with a special focus. So I think we can start showing the PPT. I will, yes, next, please. Yes, my presentation will follow 4 topics. So I will start, of course, being a diplomat, showing a bit of our diplomatic work in promoting Brazilian technology exchanges with China. So the first 2 points are more the diplomatic part, Brazil Innovation Diplomacy Program, Brazil and China bilateral highlights. And then let's focus a bit more in the Chinese ecosystem. And the last part, looking ahead, a few examples, a bit more of, let's say, a business tone. Of course, in 10 minutes, I'll try to control the time to fit within the limits. It's very insufficient to speak about all these subjects, but I think it's important to give to our friends in Brazil a sample and an idea of what is going on here and how we perceive that from our point of view. Next, please. So the embassy here in Beijing and our consulates in Shanghai and in Guangzhou, we have specialized sectors for promoting science, technology, and innovation exchanges. These are the emails I'm going to repeat at the end of our presentation, but you are more than welcome to contact us directly. So we have a network. It's one of the few countries where we have the, as you can see there, the SecTacs that we call in Portuguese. And soon Itamaraty is planning to open one more SecTac in inner part, Southwest China. So these are support points. In each of the SecTacs, we have one diplomat to support you. Next, please. So from the basic mission of the SecTacs this is not exhaustive. I didn't cover all topics, but just to give an idea, we work, of course, as embassies, as diplomats, embassy and consulates, government-to-government cooperation. So the programs decided by both ministries in all these areas. We also support the secretaries, usually secretaries of science and technology. Here, Maranhão, São Paulo. São Paulo, by the way, has an office, a specialized representation office in Shanghai. We are also in touch and working with a lot of universities from all over Brazil, technology parks from both sides. Business associations are key partners for us because through business associations, we can reach the wider public in Brazil. But we also engage with Brazilian companies with operations in China, for example. Vale and Suzano, as I included here, they also have specialized sectors looking for the innovations and all the novelties in the Chinese scene. It's a very interesting example. We also work with the fairs, focusing and organizing specialized fairs like China High Tech Fair every year in Shenzhen. This year, it's going to take place online in a few weeks. There, Chongqing also. And finally, last but not least, startup competitions and accelerators. Plug and Play China is one of our key partners. We have been working together, but also with, for example, Haikou Beijing, Dongshan Zhongguancun Tech Park here, and many others. So we cover a wide range of institutions in Brazil, in China, and different areas. So this is just to give you a basic idea. So next, please. Also, I would like to put into context the Brazilian-Chinese bilateral relations. So here we started, we had the official establishment of diplomatic relations in 1974. Well, that's a bit more over almost 5 decades, 48 years we are going to complete. This shouldn't be a surprise. Many countries in the 90s, in the 70s, sorry, established bilateral relations. But it shows that we started to discover each other less than 5 decades ago. Of course, we had commercial exchanges, immigration, and many other cultural forms of contact. But the official relations and the trade and the political dialogue started less than 50 years ago. This is quite different from many other countries, for example, let's say in the Americas, in Europe, and some in Asia that allowed for greater exchanges. So this is, I saw Paulo Padula showing that it's an unexplored ecosystem. It's an unexplored ecosystem, China, yes, but in many other ways for Brazilians, it is still unexplored. And I'll show a bit why. So here we had some highlights since '82, our bilateral agreement for science and technology. Then Brazil was one of the first main partners in space cooperation. As you follow the news, China now has a Mars mission, Moon mission, and Brazil was at the very start cooperating with China. We have remote sensing satellites, the Seabird series, which are very, very famous and provide a lot of public services. Then some example, in 1997, China only bought 3% of our agricultural exports, our agricultural production. And now it went up to 36%. It's more than 1/3 of all we export. And we are one of the biggest exporters in the world, always depending on the category, either the first or the second. Well, China is a large investor in Brazil. We have also a long history of surpluses with China. China is currently the main trade partner of more than 100 countries in the world. And it's the main trade partner of Brazil. As you can see, in 2020, we broke a record with $102 billion in bilateral exchanges. And this year, already by October, we had broken another record. So year after year, we have an important surplus, and we are breaking records in terms of bilateral trade flow. Next, please. So now let's go to the strategic and innovation part. Once I have presented our work at the embassy and put that into context. So I would like to start with the almost concluding points that I would like to highlight. When you think about China, and of course, I'm not here, and it would be too pretentious to show you everything and give you a formula. I'm not giving a formula. I'm giving you, maybe, if I'm successful, food for thought. That's my best expectation. So when you think about China, when you think about entering the market, when you think about connecting to the innovation ecosystem, I think there are many other points, but 3 points I would like to highlight is scale, the size, complexity, how diversified, how immense in terms of capillarity and diversified is the ecosystem here and many other parts of the economy, and the question of time, which is very important. So we will see in the next slides, each one in some basic forms. Next, please. So let's talk about scale. Everybody knows China has the biggest population in the world. So it's about 7 times bigger than Brazil. But it's interesting to think that it's almost 20% of the world population. So 1 out of every people living in the world is living in China. So this has a lot of implications. It helps you to think about the size of the economy, the size of the market, and how diversified it is. Here, as you can see, I'm sorry, I already running far in time. My timer is saying, but I'm very excited to do this presentation, so I'll hurry up. Well, here you can see
Feel
middle
free,
class.
José, no problem.
Oh, thank you, Paulo. Obrigado. You can see here the middle class, 400 million people. Currently the 2nd largest economy in the world, if you consider dollars, the dollar exchange rate, but in PPP, purchasing power parity, it's the biggest one. And when you think about that, you'll understand why some companies, for example, Volkswagen, BMW, the German automakers, and even GM, they have the biggest outside their headquarters market in China. Actually, if you take Volkswagen alone, 40% of their production is sold in China. And here, how big are the cities? Shanghai, Beijing, well, bigger than Sao Paulo, almost the same size, but more than 100 cities, over 1 million. This has huge implications because some cities have the population and the market bigger than some small or almost even mid-sized European countries. So if you want to test your product, if you want to enter China, so you don't need to go aim at everything at once. You can start with a regional focus. That's why I wanted to show the scale. First, it's too big. It's really the biggest market in many ways. And you don't need, and I personally think you should not, because of cost, because of complexity and time, you should not aim at everything at once. I really don't know any company that has done that, at least in short time. So this is one of the key messages. Next, please. Complexity. Well, connecting to what I just said, you have the geographic perspective, national and regional. To talk about, let's say, for example, innovation. Well, it's super complex, of course, because this is one of the powerhouses of innovation today. And it became very fast one of the powerhouses. Some people still think when we say China, they have an image like 10 years ago. 10 years ago was very different, very, very different. 20 years ago, it's like a memory, but it's not. A lot of things change very fast here. And to understand a bit of the innovation trends here, in terms of the national dimension, you should focus on the national policies, and especially the 5-year plans, the planos quinquenais. These plans, they are documents that give really the main directions. Again, it's not a formula, but it's something that you should pay attention if you want to know what are the priorities. Look at the national plans, the national laws, but innovation happens at the regional level, actually inside the company. So look at the small, when I said the ecosystem, don't aim at everything, focus on regional ecosystem, big cities, and then see what at the regional level, for example, are the potential subsidies for companies that want to operate or to want to prospect the market. They can use offices, the many accelerators and hubs, they have infrastructure to help. So play on both levels. As I said, going a bit faster here, the strategic areas. One thing that is very interesting, China, because of the scale, it graduates a lot of good engineers every year, plus sends hundreds of thousands to study abroad, most in the best universities. So the qualification of engineers, and that's why the competitiveness of the country has been increasing, is considerable. You have to take that into account. Integration with industry. We have the technological parks. That's a park is technological, as we say. But here, if you look at the official name of most technological parks, you always have the industrial element, because it's research, it's development, but it's also manufacturing. There is a strong, most areas for innovation, they are connected to developing the new products and services and the basic research, of course, but there's always the industrial element connected. I put a small parenthesis there to highlight Beijing's new policy to incentivize the development of the service sector. This is a new policy, and they created 2 special zones, let's see, policy zones, but also with infrastructure, that it's something to pay attention. Each regional government, regional authority has also their own latitude of decision to implement specific and very interesting innovation policies. Just to highlight one more point in this slide, the example of TUS Holdings. Tsinghua University is the biggest, one of the 2 biggest universities in Beijing. Tsinghua has been so successful in incentivizing their startups that they even created a holding. So the university has a holding company, and this holding company, because of the startups of their students, together with their teachers, was so successful. This TUS Holdings now has more than 800 companies that they either own or have a share. So this is a very good example from Beijing, but you can also find in other places in China, how they integrate university with innovation and company and business. So there is a continuum line, and you don't necessarily have to break into pieces. So this is interesting, because sometimes you will see a company here, and why this company is so connected to this university, not because people studied together, but because they were supported and even invested by their own university sometimes. So next, please. Time. Well, I was saying that if you think in 10 years time, everything changed a lot. This is my own perception, talking here, being almost 3 years here without being able to go back to Brazil, which I miss a lot, São Paulo, my city. But if you talking and seeing and interacting with people, I think a 5-year cycle is a good thing for you to think about China. Things change very fast. For example, today, everything you buy, everything you pay here is with QR code, with an electronic payment, a bit like Pix that we just started in Brazil a year ago. But a bit more than 5 years, it didn't really existed in the same, it was not universal, and I can use this word, it's universal. If you go on the street and you find a street musician, like you find in many capitals in the world, the guy has a QR code to receive money with WeChat Pay. Really, it's amazing. And many countries are going in that way, in universalizing universal payments. So in terms of time, I think it's important to highlight this 5-year cycle, because some people, they speak about the country, and of course, a lot, we need, as the second point say, we need to study the market dynamics, consumer profile, everything is changing very fast. But I think the 5-year bar limit helps you understand, well, let's study a bit more here, a bit more there. Be careful with old assumptions sometimes, because things change very fast. So also talking about time, perspectives of continuous growth. China now is growing less in percentage points than 10 years ago, but 6% or 5% over this on the base of the second biggest economy is certainly more than 10% on a much smaller economy that was the case 10 years ago. So look at the numbers, look at the size of your market to find the opportunities. Don't just buy the numbers at their face value. It's important. And well, experience and knowledge takes time. As I said, it's a complex market. It's a big market. Everybody is here. I mean, the Brazilians, we are, but we have a much bigger space to occupy, and we are occupying. But I'm very, very excited to see events like this and the support of other organizations, which is Plug and Play is a private initiative, private company. So we are working on our side, embassy and consulates, but it's good to see more companies, more innovation hubs, more institutions joining that. So next, please. Just to conclude, 3 areas, there are many, and actually I could say in all areas there is potential for Brazilian companies, provided that they follow some of the points that I presented here. It's my suggestion, of course, but many others, and study the Chinese market. Take into account that you cannot oversimplify things. You need to study, you need to understand China, as a big country emerging more and more. So I think 3 areas where we have seen growth and big interest. Agri-tax, because, well, this is the main area of trade. The doors are already open. We have a huge market share here and presence. We need to diversify that. Startups, other companies can offer more services. We are good at agriculture. We are some of the best of the world, and that's just realistic to say, not to brag about. Now, health tax, actually, Brazil and China are aging very fast. We have SUS in Brazil, the health system, but people are aging very fast and the needs are very common. Of course, there are differences in specific categories, but it's a huge area for growth. And green tax and carbon neutrality. China and Brazil have both committed to reduce their emissions, achieve carbon neutrality, Brazil 2050, China 2060, and there is a huge area for cooperation in that. Either exchange of technologies, experiences, co-development, but also green market exchange, bonds and everything. So next, please. Just to highlight again, our emails, you're more than welcome to contact us. I thank you very much for the attention and time. Sorry if I exceeded, but I hope that this information is useful. And congratulations for your interest in expanding Brazilian trade, Brazilian borders. We can be very proud of our companies, very proud of our good experiences, our startups, and I'm very proud to be here and glad to share this. Thank you, Paulo. Thank you, my friends, and see you.
Thank you very much, Jose. That was incredibly interesting. Thanks very much for sharing, and thanks very much for making the time to be with us. I know it's late night there in Beijing, so I really appreciate that. We have a question for the audience on the chat. According to our perspective, given the size of the internal market, and the priority that the Chinese scale-ups and startups are putting in the internal market, how interested they are in expanding abroad?
Well, Chinese companies, if I understood, yeah, how interesting are the Chinese companies to expanding abroad, right?
Yeah, the scale-ups and the startups mainly.
Definitely, definitely. Well, in some areas, Chinese market is relatively, let's say, I wouldn't say reached the point of saturation, but big countries, especially like Brazil, offer an interesting opportunity for international expansion. Let's say, for example, in cell phone production, we have all the main producers, Xiaomi, Oppo, going to Brazil, TikTok, Kuaishou in China. These platforms, online video platforms, are also expanding in Brazil. AliExpress, Alibaba, Taobao here are also, and Brazil is a significant market. So these are some examples. So this is happening already, but in some other sectors and other companies, there's always interest in expanding. First, because, well, by the scale of the internal market of China, it's not that difficult to go abroad in terms of, let's say, production. They need to adapt the services, the products, but they need to understand the market. And that's where a partnership, a merger and an acquisition, an investment could take place, and a partnership. So I definitely say this is a good question. There is potential. Chinese companies are expanding, as we see, and Brazil is one of the main destinations. But we need a lot of communication. We need to make business happen. We need to know each other, and we need to know each other by direct contact. We can get information from different means of in the press, in the media, but nothing replaces direct contact. I do hope that soon, sometime in the next year, it will be possible to travel between the countries. I know traveling is not easy. It takes door to door 2 days to come from São Paulo to here. From São Paulo, if you're in other places, it takes even a bit longer. So all in all, it's 4 days between airplane and getting adapted. So any trip to China should consider, you should consider for any trip to China, take at least 2 weeks. I know it's not every business person that can take that, but it pays off to have the direct contact. And let's use this time, while we still have some limitation because of the pandemic, to increase the interaction online.
Very good, José. Thank you very much. We have another question for you, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. We know it's super late, so Steven, we make sure that your question gets to José Roberto. And as soon as we get the answer, we'll be super happy to share with you. Once again, José, thanks very much for your time. We clearly underestimated the time. It's a big learning for next interaction that we have, but really appreciate your time and contribution. Feel free to stay with us. You are more than welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, so moving to the next part of our workshop today, we are super happy to welcome Jeff. Jeff is the Senior VP of China Partnerships at Plug and Play China. Jeff is going to provide us a little bit of the overview and some trends on China. So Jeff, please be welcome. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Paulo. So we're actually going from northern China, where Beijing, we're hosting space right now, to the southern part of China, in Shenzhen, where I'm joining you guys live. So again, super happy to be here. I think Peter already gave a bit of an overview of Plug and Play China. In the next few minutes, I will kind of go in depth as to what's unique about Plug and Play, our China operation. That's a little bit different from the Plug and Play Global. So that will be my focus, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have a little bit later as well. Next slide, please. So I think as we all know, next slide. As we all know, Plug and Play, we are very verticals driven. And then so I would like to have to quickly showcase the verticals where we have operations in China. The main 3 hubs is Beijing, Shanghai, and the newest hub is Shenzhen, where I'm based. And then we have the like sustainability, agtech, food, energy, fintech, brand and retail. You know, these are mostly based from our Shanghai hubs. And then they're based in Shanghai for a reason, because of obviously the characteristics and some of the industry background that was already there. The like of insurtech, mobility, smart cities, health, IoT, these are the focus for our Beijing headquarters. And then Shenzhen, as I mentioned, where I'm based, is our newest hub, and then smart manufacturing has been the focus for the past couple of years. Next slide, please. You know, if we think about the startups as the heart and souls of Plug and Play, I would definitely say our corporate partners, as Paulo alluded to a little bit earlier, you know, more than 300 of our Fortune 500 our partners are definitely the engine of Plug and Play. You know, they're running, they provide the application, you know, they really provide some of the funding, credibility that runs a Plug and Play. And then the question I always get asked from some of our global partners, our global friends, that what constitutes your partner space, in China. So here is a quick overview. And then I would say it's actually a very healthy mix between the multinational companies, the Fortune 500s of the world. Quite a few of those have already been our partners from some of our other global locations that also requested to become partners in China, as well as local private-owned companies. And then in recently, the last 2 or 3 years, we see an increase of SOE, the state-owned enterprises of China, that are also starting to tap into the innovation world. So obviously Plug and Play has been working very closely with them. So all in all, since Plug and Play started in 2016, 5 years ago, we see mostly maybe multinational companies that are already having a relationship with us moving toward China. And then we're seeing a gradual shift. Now it's a healthy 50-50 between local Chinese companies and global companies. Next slide, please. And then when it comes to investment, we're also very, very proud of what China has done in the last 5 or 6 years. I think out of the 24 unicorns we have year to date from the entire Plug and Play global portfolio, 2 of those are Chinese startups. And then these are interesting, they're what we call cross-border startups, more of an international-based technology from a more of an international team. We invest in them either in US dollars in the US or in China. Then they move their operations where they're mainly growing in China as we speak. So I think that definitely fits into the criteria of a cross-border startups, a very strong international flavor, leverage global technology, but then making its presence felt in the local Chinese market. Next slide, please. And then, so here's some of the Plug and Play tech investment highlights. Excuse me. As we see, we will have some really phenomenal growth when it comes to the fund raised. Also, some of the total fund raised among all stars we invested here, and some of the revenue recorded in the last few years. Next slide, please. University also plays a tremendous part of our ecosystem. As we know, I think universities, globally speaking, always are in the frontier when it comes to innovation, particularly in China, especially when some of the major universities in China, the Tsinghua and Peking University, the Beidas of the world, are funded by the government. And then they play a tremendous role in the frontier of our innovation, and also working very, very closely. Our Beijing headquarters is actually based right next to Tsinghua University. So we get to really tap into some of the earlier startups that we're seeing in the market. Next slide, please. So I think one thing that's kind of unique, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in our presentation about China, is the role that the government plays when it comes to innovation. As you know, China is a very centralized economy. So a lot of time we'll see the regional and the centralized government kind of dictate or strongly prefer a particular province or area to be focusing on a particular industry. So for example, we see mobility, or the entire mobility industry being very, very strong around the Shanghai regions. We see a stronger presence of smart manufacturing, any sort of manufacturing-based industry to be located in the southern part of China, particularly around Shenzhen and Guangdong. The financial industry on the banking side has to be in the Pudong new development area next to Shanghai, and then the like of InsurTech is going to be based on the financial street in Beijing. So having said that, the city plays a very dominant role, a very supportive role when it comes to innovation. So which is exactly why in China, when we work with the city will kind of help us dictate or better determine the type of industry, the vertical we should be having there. And then they can also help us internally rally some of the best corporations within that city to be working with us. So we really enjoy working with the various cities, either at a regional, at the provincial level, where they can be working, really hand to hand with the Plug and Play China to help us better explore the local ecosystem when it comes to startups, introducing some of the bigger corporations locally, And then there has been a very, very strong partnership. And I'll kind of mention a couple of examples of it later. Next slide, please. For example, actually, we can also go to the next slide. For example, SAIC, the largest OEM, in China and globally, they have been looking at startups from our Silicon Valley office for 2 years. And by the third year of the partnership, they really want to take this to a new scale. And then they really admire the Autobot business model that we have in Stuttgart. So they want to kind of replicate or to build something very similar in Nanjing. And then when we bring this idea to the Nanjing government, they sponsor, they support this idea fully. So it's really a great combination where a company like SAIC provides the specific industry needs application, and then the Nanjing local government will provide some of the funding, sponsorship, and also some of the favorable policy for the startups within this program. While Plug and Play, we kind of put this all together. We operate it, we bring the best startups that fits into the needs of the region as well as SAIC. Similar model we have also done in other parts of the world. For example, in Nanjing, where we run the AgTech innovation program at the national level. I think Edward from the China team will also allude to that a little bit later. And then we also have the Nanjing Bank that are doing similar things. And we do an IoT platform also in Nanjing, where it's really a happy medium between corporations, governments, and the Plug and Play. So this is, I guess, still a bit of an overview, but I hope I managed to deep dive a little bit further into what's kind of special about Plug and Play China. And then we definitely welcome all of you from Brazil to be able to visit us and join our ecosystem here. Thank you. Back to you, Paulo.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Really interesting points. We have a question for you. It's from Marcos from iFood, is the largest last mile delivery company in Brazil. His question is about many Brazilian companies are trying to copy or to replicate business models from Chinese companies. He would like to know your thoughts on which should be considered in order to adapt or to tropicalize those business models in China to other countries. If you see them being successful anywhere else, or is something of your knowledge that should be adapted to apply in other countries?
Great. That is a very interesting question. I think I think we can obviously be a little more specific in terms of what type of business model we're looking at. I think one thing that's very unique, very unique Chinese models here, were the one that are just really thriving in China, is to really leverage internet platform, right? The e-commerce that has really been the key word for the past 3 to 5 years. If you look at the highest growth company from China and globally, for that perspective, everything is being done online, in the form of platform. And then in that area, I think China definitely has a comparative advantage, something that's uniquely China. So whether that kind of strategy or approach could also be, adapted or prosper in other parts of the world, I think it really depends on the industry. I think it also depends on the population. I think Chinese, the 1.4 billion, I think the latest figure I've read is almost 1.2. I think close to 80–90% are broadly adapted to using mobile internet, right? So having that height of adaptability, where you see everybody from young to old being able to use their cell phone to make purchases, to have that kind of capabilities, to do that kind of interact with online vendors, something that every Chinese is pretty accustomed to. So you need that kind of high adaptability from the population in order for some of those business models to work. So I'm not quite sure if similar strategy online can be brought to a country with a lower or less acute, in a sense, internet adaptability rate, right? So I think there's probably a couple of moving parts. It's hard to just say this strategy will work in that country. It really depends on the industry, the type of business, as well as the population that are there.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you very much for the answer. And once again, we'll be super happy to share your email with Marcos in order for you to keep the conversation going after the call. Next slide, please. Thank you very much, Jeff. It was super insightful. Thanks for being with us. Guys, we're now handing over to Edward and Xuan. I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. If so, I apologize for that. We're going to take now an overview about the innovation that we see in AgTech in China. So once again, Jeff, thanks very much for being with you. Welcome, Edward and Xuan. The stage is yours.
Hi, I'm Edward Ni. I'm from Plug and Play China, in charge of Food and AgTech, Supply Chain and Logistics Corporate Innovation Program.
Hi, my name is Shivan. I'm in charge of the Plug and Play China Food and AgTech team. Our main focus will be the food tech and agriculture tech and anything related to the agriculture supply chain.
Plug and Play launched its Food and AgTech program back in early 2020, when we started the partnership with Nanjing National AgTech Innovation Park, which is one of the top innovation centers for AgTech, backed by Chinese Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, and the BAS Venture Capital, who has then decided to invest into AgTech in China related to startups. In June 2021, despite COVID pandemic, we announced the launch of Future Food and AgTech Accelerator program in Nanjing. We admitted 28 startups in our first batch program, including 26 local startups and 2 overseas startups.
With team effort, we are very pleased to organize a batch program to promote China food technology and agriculture innovation program. And Gene Mission biotechnology startup is one of our program. Let's welcome the founder of Gene Mission.
All friends participating in China Brazil Innovation Day. I'm James Rocker from Gene Mission China. Our company is mainly engaged in gene editing technology to improve farming, aiming at China's agriculture seed safety, edible oil strategic safety, and rural fertilization. In 2018, Dr. Liu from Embrapa visited our research center in Shenzhen and spoke highly of our research and innovation ability. The cooperation between China and Brazil must have a bright future. I wish this China-Brazil Innovation Day a complete success.
During the batch program, our local partners, including the BASF, Bayer, PepsiCo, ADM, Buller, Cargill, shared with all corporate partners from the supply chain and the logistics, such as the Walmart, CG Group, also participated in the event. In addition to business, organization, and legal coaching, as part of the accelerator program, we organized a tour to the city of Wuxi, where startups visited and piloted factories of Buller. We will have the demo day for the accelerator program on December 9th in Nanjing.
Since the launch of our Food and AgTech program, we have received strong support from Brazil Embassy in China, especially Jose, Counselor in charge of Science, Technology and Innovation section, has provided us strong support. We warmly welcome corporates and startups from Brazil to work with us in China. Thank you.
Hi, Edward. Hi, Xuan. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for being with us today. I believe the point that we'd like you to explore a little bit is about which are the key trends that you see in AgTech. I mean, which areas are receiving or attracting more investments, and which technologies are being more disruptive in agtech China at this moment?
Hello, Paulo, and ladies and gentlemen from Brazil. It's my great pleasure to talk with you. I'm in charge of food and agtech program in China, and Shiwen is my program director. So I will ask Shiwen to answer your question.
Right now that the nation is putting a lot of the attention to the original innovation. By that, we want to put more attention for the biotechnology-driven agriculture technology, such as the precision breeding and how to digitalize the whole supply chain and how to reduce the food waste. And also, there are a lot of the public discussion about synthetic biology, which will also put a lot of the application into you know, like the food and also material and the renewable energy and etc. And that's is a lot of the topic also related to the carbon nutrition and also the alternative protein. And that is what we are all looking at.
Thank you very much, Yuan. And another question that we have is considering the after the farm, I mean, the part of supply chain and distribution, after Alibaba, all the incredible work that was done, do you see anything coming after Alibaba, any other business model that are becoming more disruptive in terms of distribution of food?
Right now, we believe like distribution of the food is more like mature. It's not a very good opportunities for the early stage investor. It's more like becoming to the stage how to cooperate with the eco partner system. However, if we could put it into another insight, such as how to use the consumer insight to revise the whole supply chain, like we could put behavior analyze to make more transparent and more trustworthy of the whole supply chain. And that is the point that we think that we have some disruptive technology into that, more deep insight into the consumer needs.
Very good. Thank you very much for that.
Allow me to add
Sure.
a few comments. One is that the cold chain is becoming more important in the entire supply chain, especially regarding to the food supply chain. So in the past, there are very little attention on that. But right now, because the people are more thinking about the food quality and also about the food security, you know, because of COVID. So there are a lot of new innovations in the food sector regarding to the supply chain and cold chain technologies. And the second is that especially since this year, you know, in China, the land policy is kind of different. So it's all mainly controlled by the government and not too much flexibility in circulation. But we are also seeing the trend that the government is starting to funding some of the, you know, the land facilities. So in the future, the corporates, you know, and also the businesses, they don't need to purchase the land or the infrastructure. They can, you know, they can just rent these facilities directly from the government. So it will be like OPEX instead of CAPEX in corporate budget. So it will be becoming more easy for large businesses to enter the China's agriculture sector. Yeah, so this is China's kind of changing of policy to allow more capital into this market. Thank you.
That makes sense. Thank you very much, Eddie. We have another question. I mean, a major trend that we see in developed countries is the vertical farming or the urban farms. Do you see that as a trend also in China or in Brazil, which are countries with a vast territory, or this is something more for smaller countries like the ones in Europe, or how do you see that for countries with larger territories?
So recently, I think a few months ago, we just finished a vertical farming report, and I could share some insights in China. First, we have many players, but which is all located to the east side of the China, and then they are more subsidized by the government. And the largest obstacles they are facing, one is for how do they could have the energy supply with least costs. And then the other one is how do they could build up a sustainable business model, since their cost of the vegetables and the fresh products is relatively high. And we believe that vertical farming could be survived in the countries like Japan or Singapore because limited resource to grow food. However, if we could build up a sustainable model of the urban farming and produce the customers within like 15 kilometers, and there are a lot of the chance for that, and also for the organic product brand promoting.
Very good. We have another question. Unfortunately, this needs to be the last one because of the timing. But again, we'll be super happy to put every question in charge with every question to Xuan and to Edward, and we'll make sure that all the questions will be answered offline. But the final question, Xuan, is about financing in agriculture, finance and insurance. Which are the trends that you see in terms of financing harvest or assurance the harvest? Which are the main trends that you see in China?
You mean the financing deals or?
Yeah, no, the fintech in agriculture. Let's put it this way: the financial solutions for agriculture.
Okay, so for this part, I think we are facing the limited data of the producers, and that is making a lot of the financial institution very hard to validate their ability of how to justify their actions. So I think the basic problem is that how do we could build up some institution trust and for the digitalize the whole supply chain and could predict their risk and also their balance for that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you very much for your answer. Thank you for all the insights and input that you brought to us. We have some other questions, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So again, this is not the end of the conversation, it's just the beginning. We'll be super happy to keep the conversation offline. But Edward, Xuan, thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you very, very much for your insights. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Next slide, please. Okay, so getting to the final session of today's event, we're going to welcome Bella Zhang. Bella is the Director for Sustainability in China, and she's going to share a little bit with us on how Plug and Play is seeing this trend in China. It's super hot topics everywhere, and you get a little bit of the insights that we have from the programs that we had in China. Bella, welcome. Thank you very much for being with us, and feel free to take this stage.
All right, thank you so much. So I'll be sharing my screen here. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm going to talk about the innovation trends in China and where the innovators are contributing to the sustainable transactions in China. So I am Bella, as mentioned, I'm in charge of the energy and sustainability and also brand and retail programs in China. So talking about climate change, so we all know this is one of the hottest topics for this year's because of a lot of climate change result that we are seeing for right now. And as we all know, a lot of corporates are going towards the sustainable transactions. And according to our research, some of the key drivers for corporate sustainability practice, including first of all, the natural resources constraints. But other than that, three other emerging factors are changing the world of sustainability as well. A lot of corporations are facing regulatory and compliance from the government, and they are seeing business values actually created in sustainability. Last but not least, they are seeing customers, the pressure from customers and brand image could be built with the more sustainable practices. So we did a little bit analysis about the key driving players of sustainable practice in China, including consumers, investors, policymakers, and employees. So we'll talk each about it. So the first one is consumers. As we mentioned earlier, consumer becoming one of the major focus and key driving forces about sustainability globally. So globally, we know sustainability-oriented product sales like 6% faster, 6 times faster than overall retail products. And 73% of the global consumers says they're willing to change their purchase behavior to limit their environmental impact, which is a great number of customers. In China, we're seeing customers are adopting conscious buying and sustainable lifestyle. Right now, we will see like the majority of the consumers are not aware of the social and environment impact so much in their daily purchasing activities. But we're seeing like a lot of Generation Z and the new middle class are trying to focus more and being more conscious about what product they are choosing. And they realize each time when they are choosing the product, they are making a choice of their lifestyle and trying to make sure that they choose the product which align with their values. And secondly is the investors. We are seeing organizational investors all over the world are contributing their money to a sustainable investment. And climate friendly investing is one of the hot topics in global ESG investment community. And 78% of the investors say they're paying more attention to the portfolio companies where they have more like environment impact. And in China, investors are being more and more interested in sustainability related portfolio as well. So we'll show you a little more values and data in the next slide. And thirdly is about the policymakers. We talk about Paris Agreement and other policies and global deals which are made to make our global community become more sustainable. And in September 2020, President Xi Jinping announced that People's Republic of China will aim to have the carbon dioxide emission peak before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. And these two numbers become the very hot topics in China about 30-60, and everything about the business and investment are being regulated by the final number. And with that, the investors and consumers are more confident about the carbon neutrality future. And employees. So globally, research shows that attention to large corporations to environment and sustainability is strongly related to their attention to employee welfare, and which is becoming true in China as well. So a lot of companies are trying to be more sustainable because of their employees. So with that, we will see about sustainability innovation. We're not only use sustainable innovation as a tool of risk management, but it also can be new growth drivers. It can help us to increase the return on capital and could be a potential tool for cost control. And talking about China, we will actually say this year is a year of carbon neutrality in China. People are talking about carbon neutrality all the time. And two data strongly support the conclusion that the year is actually a year of carbon neutrality. First of all is the carbon neutrality related investment. So here there's two numbers about it. One is the investment size, another is number of deals. So as we can see this year, only like the first half of this year, we already had 93 deals being made in the field of carbon neutrality. So even for the second half of this year, the topic is even hotter. So we will see, we are estimating that the overall number will be over 200 investment being made only in this year. And that include a really huge increase of the number of deals in China with a larger the larger size of investment. So we're definitely seeing the field as being really concentrated with investors. And on the other hand, we are seeing a lot of carbon neutrality focused fund has been established only in this year. As you can tell here, I listed some of the new established fund and time and the size of the fund. A lot of them are having a size of around like 10 billion Chinese yuan, which is a large number of money being put into the carbon neutrality field. And we're seeing some strong players are entering this market, including like China National Energy. Such kind of companies are strong Chinese state-owned companies being very dominant in energy market, and government representative as well, such as China Reform Holdings, like Xiamen government, Wuhan government, and also like energy companies such as GCL, Evision, and Baowu Steel. Those are the biggest players in the energy or like industrial sectors, and they are entering the carbon neutrality investment space. Together, they are bringing industrial resources to the investment side as well. And with the new established funded being established in the market, we are seeing a lot of new forces are helping the sustainable innovations being in the market and helping them to enlarge their impact in the overall value chain. So that's about the bigger trends in China. And in the next couple of slides, I will be talking about the startups. We were talking about the startups, what they're doing, where they are, and where they're targeting. So this analysis is about top 100 clean tech or like energy and sustainability startups that we have seen in the market. So we did a couple statistical analysis about the startups. First of all, we're talking about their where they are in energy value chain. So we're seeing startups kind of evenly distributed in generation, transmission, consumption, and storage. And some startups, like 12% of startups, are focusing on sustainability. And in terms of the type of the technologies which are enabling the innovations happening in the specific sectors, we're seeing a huge number of the startups are being enabled by IoT technologies. And material science, chemistry, and new processes could be another driving forces in the sector as well. And artificial intelligence and big data counts like 22% of the startups, which is a very important factor as well. So other than that, we have blockchain, biotech, and robotics being very important in the sector as well. And they count for like a couple percentage of the startups there. And where they are in China. So as mentioned, China has a couple of the biggest cities, and are the startups actually in these big cities? So here we have a ranking for where the startups actually are. The top 1 cities where the startups is Beijing. So 26 out of the 100 startups are based in Beijing. And secondly is Shanghai. But something interesting is the third place belongs to Yangtze River Delta, which is an area around Shanghai. And 18 out of the 100 startups are actually based in some cities near Shanghai. So when we are combining the number of the startups based in Shanghai and the ones who are based around Shanghai, that is like 38 startups. So which makes Shanghai and the cities around Shanghai become one of the hub of energy and sustainability innovation. And I guess that's one of the reasons that our team of energy and sustainability is based in Shanghai. And that's joking, but it's true as well. But we definitely are looking into the space and looking for startups around Shanghai and all around the world. So other than Beijing and Shanghai, the Great Bay Area counts a couple of startups as well, and other regions in China has innovations around their with specific focus as well. For example, we see startups from Chongqing and Xi'an with specific student and expert graduate from local universities and research institute. And in terms of the stage of financing, because Plug and Play is pretty much focusing on early stage investment, and we are trying to help our corporate partners to increase their visibility about the startup world, we usually do not focus on the mature startups. We focus on some early stage startups. So from this 100, we're seeing quite a few number of the startups are in their seed stage, angel stage, pre-A and A stage. And we are helping the startups grow. When we're doing deal flows for our corporate partners, that was pretty much stage agnostic. So finally, this is the heat map of our top 100. As you can see here, we mix this matrix to show you where the startups are in terms of the technology and applications. On the horizontal axis, what you can see is the application of the startups technologies. So we divided the map into like energy generation, transmission, consumption, storage, and sustainability. And on the vertical axis, we have the technologies, which is enabling the innovation happening in the specific sector, including like machine learning, big data, blockchain, robotics, IoT, material science, and biotech. So as you can see, the most concentrated sector is IoT-enabled energy consumption management, which is one of the hot topics in China as well. This is about energy and sustainability, but when we are talking about climate change and carbon neutrality, we're talking about a larger scale. So here we divided startups into two sectors. So when we are talking about the relationship between human activities and climate change, the startups or like the approach can be divided into two sectors. One is climate adaptation, another one is climate mitigation, climate change mitigation. So we are trying to characterize the startups. And when we are saying about disruptive technologies, when we're looking into the Chinese startups, we try to find the startups being backed by the technologies and having impact in like a broader range of sustainability related areas. And on the right side, what you can see is a curve about the startup maturity and the visibility. So keep in mind in China, because of the hot trends about carbon neutrality and climate tech, we're seeing a lot of startups when the technology is triggered, they will first come to a peak of expectations. So people have really high expectation to that. People are giving them a lot of visibilities and attentions here, but then they may be, the situation become tough for them after the peak. And after that, they may slowly get more attention and solve their current challenges and being to the stage of development. So when we're looking into startups, we usually want to work with startups either here or here. And those are the sectors that the startup could potentially have a healthy growth in the near future. And so with the extended scope of research, this is the energy and sustainability heat map we have right now. So we actually extended our like application use case with sustainable production, manufacturing, sustainable supply chain, and sustainable consumption, with like not only energy, but also carbon footprint tracking, transportation optimization, sustainable fashion, food and beverage, mobility, building, and waste management. And this is the current heat map we have for now. And we use the heat map to guide us for early stage investment and also how we provide consulting service to our corporate partners in China. So the way towards carbon neutrality is not only about control and reduce carbon emission, but also increasing the carbon sink. And we are looking into green finance and carbon management and trading as well. And we believe a lot of technologies can be a great support to the current China sustainability innovation ecosystem. And we are looking to a lot of startups around this space. So thank you so much. And this is a brief overview of what we are doing in China. And we would love to chat with you and learning more about what you're doing about sustainable innovation in Brazil and how this Chinese innovation could potentially help you to be applied or extended to Brazil. Thank you.
No, we thank you very much, Bella. I mean, the presentation was super insightful. You got a ton of questions here. Let's try to cover as much as we can. The first question is about drones. I mean, do you see drones being massively adopted by delivery companies, or this is much more for PR and marketing reasons? Is this a reality, or in terms of efficiency, or just for marketing purposes?
Yes, that's a great question. I think maybe Edward can help me a little bit here as well. So when I was talking about drone, I was more focused on energy sectors. So drone is usually used in energy sectors for predictive maintenance. So we use drones for like solar panels checking in and how they can help to optimize the operations for the larger like solar farms. And about the question itself, when we are talking about drones application in supply chain distribution, maybe Edward can help me a little bit here as well, because he is also in charge of our supply chain logistic practice.
Sure,
okay,
Ed, if you can jump back.
Yes. So actually, for drones, it's a quite sensitive, topic in China because China has a very strict policy for the aviation because the army controls the sky. So, but we do see that there are more popular applications of drones. This month, actually, the city of Shanghai just approved the delivery for Meituan for the parcels and food delivery in Shanghai. So and also in some rural areas and the mountainous areas are using drones like JD.com and SF Express are using drones for goods delivery and also for the human, the passenger kind of drones. There's also some kind of pilots, and the country is building some standards and regulations on that. So we will see that. So in summary, we will see more applications of drones in goods in cargo delivery first, and maybe become more available in the passenger area in like 5 or more years.
Very good, thank you. I believe you can share the answer for the next question as well, is about how delivery companies are adopting electric vehicles. I mean, motorcycle, cars. Is this something that is a reality, or is too expensive for their P&Ls to adopt massively?
Well, yes, EV is definitely a trend here in China, and also the country also studying the hydrogen vehicles as well. Yeah, so right now I think the growth in EVs for passenger cars is kind of amazing. With Tesla's factory in Shanghai, and we also have NIO and other Xiaopeng. Even Xiaomi, the phone manufacturer, has announced the plan to enter into the automobile industry. So and also for the in the city transport, the government is controlling the use of gasoline and diesel trucks. So there will be more popularity in the for EV in city delivery as well, and we will see more applications for hydrogen in the future, maybe like 2 to 3 years, because like in the city of Shanghai alone, there will be over 100 hydrogen gas stations built in 2 to 3 years. This was announced also last year by the municipal government.
Very good, thank you. We have time for a final question. I'm sorry, you still have questions that won't be able to be answered today. Everybody's reading the news about quantum computing. I mean, the fastest computer in the world is now in China. So if you see any practical applications of quantum computing in your areas, is this something that is pure science, or is it already being applicable to solve business issues?
Well, Bella, I may also take this one. From our view, is more than it's a seriological exploration, because if there's really any practical application, people will use that to calculate the Bitcoin. so now that we don't see any of this kind of application, we know that there's no breakthrough anyway.
Yeah, I guess the similar situation in our sectors. So we are seeing large corporations or promoting quantum computing in their model establishment, but it's not like really applied in the sector for now from our point of view.
Very good, guys. I have no words to thank you, really. It was a very insightful session. For our team in China, thank you very much for staying with us even so late at night. To our audience, we apologize for not being able to answer all the questions that we got. But for us, it's a stimuli for us to think about another sections, probably with more time to take the most knowledge from our invitees. So we are wrapping up the session. Once again, thank you very much for joining. Thanks very much for sharing your knowledge with us. And for our partners here in Brazil, we'll see you soon. Thank you very much and stay safe, guys.